The age of the digital industrial economy is upon us. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to feel overwhelmed, like the vast majority of the CIOs we interviewed last year, who on the one hand are saying, we have no idea how we're going to tap into even some of the chances this new economy is delivering us. On the other hand, we are completely unprepared. We don't even know how to start. Will that be your choice? Will you stay the way you currently think? Or will you see this as a golden opportunity? Will you see this as an opportunity to understand your target audiences better? Be they patients, citizens, customers, students, whatever your target audience consists of. Will you understand them better in order to deliver not just a good experience, not just a great experience, but to understand their behavior so that you can deliver the best next experience that will help them and encourage the kind of behavior that you want them to have. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mick McCumsky. As Ali said, I'm lead analyst for web content management at Gartner, but I'm also involved in the broader community at Gartner to monitor this fascinating evolution. To really understand, on the one hand, the visionary aspects of where things are going, but also the practical aspect of how every single one of you, as partners, as prospects, as customers, can deliver greater value to your target audiences. So my aim today is to give you a 3-phase plan of action. This is indeed a call to action, where you can exact the highest potential from this new digital economy. The first step will be to establish a platform of understanding. What's this all about? What are the first principles upon which we can base our ongoing concepts and efforts? Secondly, what is the right stuff here? What is the platform of technology that will help you achieve such a user experience? And thirdly, what's in it for you? What can you do starting Monday morning to develop a platform of process and your organization to start exacting this potential on day one? So the first step, start thinking differently. We have been growing incrementally since the late 1990s, a little bit more in terms of what we think the web can do. But it's a bit like running when somebody breaks the 4-minute mile, and you think, whoa, we were just incrementally, second by second, approaching that, and suddenly it's all wide open. So I want you to reset your thinking, and starting this morning, ask yourself this question. What would it take? What would be involved in something as simple as this procedure of get context? Something that's very simple, but not easy. Context is the understanding of what's happening right now with your interaction. Context is not just the classic, the personalization aspect of things, the identity. It's also the aspects of the community. So knowing that you're a particular person, an excellent Java programmer, very au fait with the concepts and principles of 273 and Apache Jackrabbit and so on. If I also know you're in the JahiaOne community, that's an important piece of information that's of value to me, and I will respond to you with information that may be more relevant to you. But on a Friday, when you interact with an online channel, between 9 o'clock or 12 or something like that, or if you come from Ireland, from 11 o'clock in the morning, maybe till a bit later, you're working. So your persona is Frank or Julie, the worker. One day later, You're the father, the mother, the family member, the hobbyist. You may be accessing the same website, the same online channel, but your intent may be totally different. Understanding is not pigeonholing people and saying, they did this once, therefore they're always going to want to do that. It's a question of real-time understanding and nurturing this understanding over time. So the first call to action here, when you go away, when you're talking with your colleagues, think of that simple procedure. Get context. What does that mean? I'll give you some pointers later on, but this is something I'd love to come back to you on. Secondly, once you've understood the context, once you've understood why I'm interacting with you right now, what user experience should you deliver? Do you have enough information to start tailoring it? Because in the olden days, remember, when folks tried to tailor things too soon, you lost them. I remember buying perfume for one girlfriend over a website, and 2 years later, having lost that girlfriend, I was still being offered perfume. I said, no, look at the other things I bought on your website. So the point is, what would it take to convert this simple procedure into an actual reality, where you're tapping into a growing number of technologies atop a sound platform in order to drive those kind of behaviors that will make your business, your organization, your institution even more successful. But remember, experience is not equals content. Very often in the content management context, we tend to equate the two. Now, don't get me wrong, content is absolutely extremely important here. And arguably, it's the first layer that humans perceive. But beyond that, beyond the content elements, you have the functional elements, you have the design elements, you have the social elements, the temporal elements, if something is urgent or not. All these comprise the experience. This experience in the future will become more granular, so you'll have greater choices, therefore greater complexity, but the opportunity is there, the potential is there for you to exact. So with this platform of understanding, these are the first principles, and when you think about them and take one step back, this is akin to real human communication. This is what human engagement is all about, is taking what works. That's why planes were built on what birds look like. Real human communication is understanding a particular context and the language of the people. I wish I spoke French, I don't. But responding in a language that hopefully everyone understands. And in an Irish accent that's hopefully not too extreme. So, what's in it for you? You may have read Gartner reports about the trends and this, or not just Gartner reports, analyst reports. Oh, mobile first, that's the latest trend. And oh, responsive design, that's another good trend. I'll write a note about that. But you have to ask yourself one question. Where are you on the spectrum of thinking of your online presence as a simple website, a grandiose hello world, brochure, here are instructions to our headquarters, that side of the spectrum, or where you could be in regarding your overall digital channel as a holistic and coherent way to connect with those individuals, those personae who are vital to your business, the target audiences you want to help and serve. So I won't go through all these particular trends, but one very important decisive trend is, whereas in the olden days we used to think primarily, like if you think to the recession, well, not that olden days, but back to the recession, 2008, 2009, and so on, efficiency was everything. Marketing departments were getting reduced in size, so a fewer amount of people had to do a greater amount of work. So efficiency was everything. But efficiency is not everything now. It's the effect and impact. And I'll go into this later on, because that is the link to what you're trying to achieve, not just how. If you were doing the wrong things before, Doing those wrong things more efficiently does not bring you further. Secondly, before, as a Gartner analyst, I used to get a lot of calls, like in 2008 and so on. Mick, we're looking for a web content management system or tool. They use different words, and we've got $30,000 or 30,000 euros or what have you. So it started with an inherent limitation. We have these bunch of requirements. Oh man, what's that going to cost? Now it's different. The thinking out there, and how I encourage you to think differently as well, is to think, what is our individual potential? How can our organization truly benefit from this? And what kind of impact do we want to have? And what kind of return are we going to get on the investment that we're going to make? And then decide, with this much more intelligent context, an appropriate context, not trying to get a website up with your hands tied behind your back, but by looking at the right platform and saying, yes, that's what I want to use. And I'm going to build on that, not pour lots and lots of money in it if I do not see the return, rather to go in with your eyes wide open. A final thing to mention here at the very end. Since the recession, and there's a lot of pain out there. I used to work for, I used to be a principal architect at Vignette back in the 2000, 2004 side of things, so in the trenches. And I felt the pain of promises being made, and I was the guy who had to try to fulfill them, and the software didn't really get there, so you had to customize and develop and so on. And and after a year, there was this kind of, oh, hang on a sec, that's not what we asked for. We paid for this. I remember one particular meeting, it was quite embarrassing for me as a professional. I thought I was being methodical and the right approach and sitting down and saying, okay, I need some information so I can develop your data model. Yeah? And they went, what? The content management application is not out of the box? They were stunned. So it was more a kind of a, oh my goodness, we need to step back here, reset expectations. So the bottom line here is, when you decide on a platform, and we'll talk about this in a second, then you'll be building on that in a very incremental, iterative, and in some cases experimental way. This is your way to agilely and in a very lean way shore up your risk on the one hand, but exact a much higher return on the other. So these are the fundamental principles. This is a platform of understanding in order to where your ideas, your understanding can be going. Next, it's all about, well, the right stuff, the right platform, the right technology. And what Gartner has seen out there is that the various industries, the various verticals just have it up to here with buying one so-called solution over here from another department buying a totally different solution over here, realizing that 30% of the functionality is overlapping. What do we do now? So we see an emergence of what Gartner calls the user experience platform. Well, not just Gartner, it's the obvious name, really. And when you think about it, yeah, it helps end users, developers, third parties, to really focus on their digital channel or their web presence in order to build out those kind of experiences over multiple channels. So it's a platform of enterprise level with the right combination of modules to get you started, to give you the capability, however, not just to get value from day one, but also to build on that in that iterative way. And not just be able to look in the future and say, well, okay, like 4 channels should be enough. Yeah, we don't know what's coming around the corner. We don't know if we're next to Google Glasses, we're going to have so-called context lenses where you just kind of slip them in and you can see the world, la vie en rose, through rose-tinted glasses, or lenses, literally almost. Yeah? So, what's really involved here? You need a user experience platform incorporating elements like modules like with web content management, like portal elements, runtime elements for delivery, been able to bolt onto that when you are ready. Additions like A/B testing, that's the experimental part of things. You don't know what's going to work, so half the time this version, half the time that version. In the future, when you get the hang of this, you'll go to multivariate testing and so on. You'll be incorporating analytics into your overall approach so that you can detect, without knowing the person's name, without knowing who they are or if they were ever on your site before, at least what device they are using. And being able to exploit the latest technologies like OSGI, RESTful interfaces, various APIs, HTML5, CSS3, all these buzzwords suddenly have a real application in your organization. So let's tie the two together. Your platform of understanding is to establish a clear picture of what an interaction is all about, and then to have the capability to deliver in accordance with that understanding. What I recommend, and this is the second call to action, even if you don't have the crystal clear answer for get context, yeah, those who solve that problem, by the way, within a year, that's $1 billion company or €1 billion company. But in the meantime, you can be listing all those information sources that could provide you with the insight. Tapping into different web analytics or patterns, aspects of personalization related information, all this good stuff. And in addition, preparing your solution and technical architecture so that you can be delivering to these different channels. So we have the platform of understanding. We have the platform of technology, the user experience platform. Now, what about the making this real for us from on today? Yeah, when you leave this conference, how do I even go about this? I guarantee you, well, okay, question. How many of you have been in projects where the very first meeting, sort of kickoff was, okay, now we talk about requirements? Would that be fairly? Okay, a fair show of hands. My point today is to think differently. Remember the reset button? Yeah? And we've developed at Gartner an 8-step framework to help you drive your digital strategy forward. And you know what step number 9 is? You guessed it, requirements. The first step is not what you require, but that which you want to achieve. Grammatically and literally, requirements are what you need for these outcomes. So start with those outcomes. I think it was the physicist Feynman who gave this very simple analogy to say, you know, it's very difficult to infer a recipe of a cake when the cake is already made. But if you have the recipe, my goodness, it's very easy to make the cake. Sequence is everything. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to start further upstream and to think, what is your organization all about? As a partner, what kind of value do you want to deliver? What do you stand for? As a government entity, as a consumer targeting entity, as an institution, as a university, what do you stand for and what are your high level organizational objectives? And then think of the individual metrics that you will need in order to achieve those. Yes, we want people to stay longer interacting with us. Yeah? Imagine you have all this wonderful information. Let's say you're a consultant or you're an expert, a subject matter expert in your company. If somebody ran up to you, quick question, and ran off again, you go, yes, but I need to explain why. That's no kind of communication. You want folks to be interacting with you, to stay longer and to get value from that. So one simple metric might be that we extend the time that people stay on our site, the length of visit, by 90% by the end of the year. The return visits, that's all measured of value, in addition to the commercial level metrics. This is all gold for you. This is how you establish a compass on the one hand, and then when you have those metrics laid out, you can then group them in accordance with the kind of solution components you're going to need. So you start off with a compass, and you end up with a crystal ball. Through this mapping, and I'll refer directly to what Ali was talking about, this digital industrialization, and with the emphasis on working together. One of the things I was going to include in this presentation was a video from YouTube. There was a fight that broke out in Dublin, okay? And I was going to say, this all started with marketing upstairs saying, no, we want to choose our own solution, and that was IT fighting them, But the fight was just too brutal, and I thought, no, it's too realistic, But it's, oh man, how many times, but even now I get calls at Gartner, And it's kind of like, Mick, we need your help. We're trying to convince marketing to do this, and they just won't listen. We've tried everything, And the marketers are on the phone, and they're saying, Mick, help. We're trying to get IT to do this for us, but they don't understand what we mean, And you have this unbelievable impasse. That age is now gone. Digitalization is all about blurring the lines, ostensibly and primarily between offline and online, but also between business and IT. Gartner predicts that by 2017, the marketing organization will be spending more on IT-related technology than the IT department themselves. So this is where you come together. The business side will be helping to nail down what they want, and this is iterative. Nobody knows this straight off. And then the working together will help you with this crystal ball to know what platform you're looking for, what components, the social channels you'll want to be addressing, the mobile capabilities you'll want to be leveraging in order to deliver that experience. But once again, where do I start? Well, the thing is, it's very, very difficult, and I haven't found a solution for this yet. But I do not know how to prioritize requirements. But if you lay out a list of goals, well, obviously those goals with the highest impact, the least effort, and the least risk, they're sort of number one. It becomes a lot more of an intuitive exercise to be able to prioritize and sequence those goals you want to achieve. And the bottom line is, that's where you're going to start. And remember, with this iterative, incremental approach, your first phase might be these first 10 goals. And then with sprints and a kind of a lean and agile approach, you'll be exacting return from getting the next achievement and the next achievement. So this next call to action is to change your platform of process from a beginning with requirements, and oh my goodness, how are we going to get mobile first to work? What does it even mean? Do we take it literally or not? What about responsive design? Is that really important? Rather than getting bogged down with those ideas, it's kind of like, hey, listen, in 1 year's time, if we were to do everything right, what would success look like? What numbers would tell us that we are absolutely brilliant? Eli, how many people were you expecting initially at the conference?
80 people.
How many are here?
170. 170,
yeah. Okay. 100%, more than 100% over expectations. That's success. What are your numbers? What are your parameters? What numbers will you be celebrating in 1 year's time? There's a very, once again, straightforward approach to achieve this. Align those goals in terms of risk, effort, and reward, and do this iteratively, and create your own magic quadrant. Startup, increasing risk is here, and you see the increasing value is here. So the point here is if this is high value but also high risk, that's something definitely you want to consider. But make sure you look to mitigate those risks first, or at least try to reduce the probability of their arising. But my goodness, you could certainly have some kind of low-hanging fruits, to get the project going. So the bottom line is, You have your platform of understanding, your platform of technology, and using this process, you can make this a reality for you. So finally, I promise to make sure to deliver absolute pragmatic advice going out of here. The first level, let's start off with what you don't do. First of all, do not take mobile first literally. It's a wonderful idea, and it's trying to avoid the idea of, building a website and everything for the website and saying, oh my goodness, we forgot mobile. Think of the goals you want to achieve. Think of how the target audiences will interact with you. Think of all the channels over which and through which these individuals will want to communicate with you. Serve those channels. Next, be ready for the next important channel. Build agility into your architecture. Secondly, don't confine decisions to either IT or the business. Remember, digital industrialization, a key precept of that, and absolutely necessary for the new digital economy, is the synergy between the business and the IT. Moving then to what you should actually do. Number one, think upstream. Take into account, start with those outcomes inside. Start with the end goal inside. Paint a picture of what success means for you. Quantify that picture. Then choose the right user experience platform on which you can start basing that success. And finally, instead of that risky, horrible, big bang approach, I want you all to take a very incremental, iterative, and be bold and experimental approach to this. The opportunities are out there. I want you to exact the potential of these opportunities, and I want you all to be successful and rise to the challenge of this new digital industrial economy.